Good. So we're in the middle of Hakdama Gimel. We're in the middle of talking about Shir Sakelim, and we are holding on page Memhe, the middle of page Memhe. So we talked about a few consequences. Last time we talked through what he presented as three consequences of Shir Sakelim. Number one was that the kalim break, right? The defined expressions, the defined giluyim, revelations of particular aspects of the Or Ein Sof, they break. The definition itself breaks, and the kalim themselves fall lamata, right? I mean, the kalim become more migusham. The kalim become more distant from being able to convey and reveal yichud, the yichud of the Or Ein Sof, the yichud of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So now, kalim, which are the vehicle through which Or is being revealed, are now revealing greater and greater periods. So when we encounter expressions of the Ratzon Hashem, what we're encountering ultimately are things that make it harder for us to appreciate or reveal to us the yichud of everything in a less clear and a less obvious way. Now, that was number one. Number two, we said that the Or within these kalim is chozer lamala, right? That the expressions of the Ratzon Hashem that were held by each of these kalim, that these definitional or defined conceptions of Or, the Or itself, because the keli breaks and reverts downward in a way that reveals less and less yichud. So, by and large, the Or, which is an expression of that yichud, expression of the Or Ein Sof, because every bit of Or contains all of the Or. Every right HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not divisible, so every bit of the Or, although it can be revealed within a kli as a particular thing, nevertheless it's containing everything within it. So that Or, which is very mezuchach, it's very high, it's very refined. It's very close to the yichud of the Or Ein Sof, the yichud of the expression of the Or Ein Sof in the Ratzon Hashem. That goes back upwards, right? It rejoins the undifferentiated Or Ein Sof because it no longer has a kli to define it. So now it doesn't have a definition. So by definition, it's back in the Or Ein Sof. It's back in the undifferentiated Or Pashut. And third, which is what we're going to get to today, third, he said, is that there are rapach nitzotzos. There are 288 nitzotzos, 288 sparks of this Or that don't go back up lamala, don't rejoin the Or Ein Sof. Instead, they fall together with the kalim lamata down to the next level of reality, and really all the way down into the lowest levels of reality ultimately. They fall and they remain within the broken bits of the kalim, right? The shattered sense of definition, the shattered sense of gilui, of revelation, and there's still Or there. There's still Nitzotzos there, right? He describes them as Nitzotzos as opposed to Or, because as we're going to see, they're not full expressions of the Or. They're only very, 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 very limited and very hard to discern expressions of the Or. But inevitably, this has to be the case, because if Or wasn't also present below where the kalim fall, so then there wouldn't be anything below, right? The only thing that creates anything is the Ratzon Hashem. The Ratzon Hashem is Or. So there's expressions of the Ratzon Hashem that are still contained and still contained within the shevirah kalim, but they're just nitzotzos and they're contained only within shevirah kalim. And the idea again of shevirah kalim is that the thing that is being nisgalatas, the thing that's being revealed to us, the Or that's being revealed to us through these kalim, is not fully discernible, not fully appreciated. Okay, so now we're going to get into. So then we talked about the consequence of the kalim breaking and the kalim falling downward and the Or going back up. Is the consequence of that is klipa, right? The kalim fall into klipa. The kalim really create the reality of klipa. And we talked about the gimel klipos tameos, and we talked about klipos noga, and now we talk about the rapach nitzotzos. So page memhei, he says v'hine be'es shviras hakalim v'histalkus are at the time when the kalim break, when the shevira happens, and the R is mistalik back up, right? It loses its definition and it just becomes part of the undifferentiated R and sof once again. Hishir HaKadosh Baruch Hu me'or HaGadol. HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows and leaves over of his or rapach nitzotzos, 284 sparks. Shenaflu lamata, which fall downward. Haklipa biyachadim shevirah kalim. They fall downward into the klipa together with the shevirah kalim, right? They fall down into the klipa, meaning they fall down into a space, into a consciousness, into a reality where the gilui of the thing within the klipa is not obvious, right? It's something covering over the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And why does this happen, right? Again, all of this, we said last time, all of this is happening intentionally, right? None of this is necessary. None of this is inevitable. These are all intentional things. Second, make sure you just say so the dog doesn't get in it. So why is this happening? The or the Nitzotzos are falling downward into the klipa together with the shevirah kalim, because that's the only way that we provide chiyus to the shevirah kalim. That's the only way the shevirah kalim are anything. The truth is that kalim themselves are or, right? Really, a kli is just the consequence of or revealing a limited amount of or revealing itself outward, and a much larger, all-expansive or in sof on the outside of the kli, revealing that the kli is only containing a little bit. That's what a kli is. A kli is, by definition, really is formed by the existence of or. Right. To put it differently, again, we say that we often use the mashal of a cup, but if you have to imagine a cup that's made of water, right? Because the cup is not really separate from the water. But I have a cup that's made out of water. So what makes the cup a cup? The thing that defines the cup. What is the cup? The cup is the thing that holds and defines and delineates the water that's within it and separates it from the water that's outside of it. So what really makes the cup what it is? The water that's in it and the water that's outside of it. The water that's in it defines the cup from the inside out, and the water that's outside the cup defines the cup from the outside in. All the water that's outside the cup, in other words, the or ein sof, or what we could call, we've used this before, the or makif, the thing that's not contained within a kli, the or that's not contained within a kli, that gives definition to the kli, because the kli is whatever this is not, right? It's only a small bit of the much bigger thing outside. And the water inside the cup gives definition to the kli from the inside out, because if the kli is holding this much, right, 8 ounces of water, not a billion gallons of water. But you need both the 8 ounces inside the cup and the billion gallons outside the cup, which together give definition to, oh, this is a cup, right? This is a cup, meaning this is a thing that defines a certain amount of water as opposed to all the water. Why do I know? Why is it not all the water? Because there's water on the outside. Why is it only a particular amount of water? Because there's only a certain amount of water on the inside. So that's what a cup really, that's what a kli really is, right? So kalim themselves are really functions of or. So you can't have kalim without or. And therefore, the only thing that gives chiyus to the shevirah kalim, that allows them to exist at all and creates something that gives off some kind of gilui, some kind of reflection of the Ratzon Hashem within klipa, is these nitzotzos. Shelo yispatlu gamri, so that the kalim shouldn't disappear entirely. Uvachol yom v'yomis barim b'ol and chalakim me'elu harapach nitzotzim v'shivra kalim al yidei avodas b'nei Yisrael. And every single day, what happens is that we are clarifying and we are elevating little bits and pieces of these rapach nitzotzim and little bits and pieces of these shivra kalim through our avodah. That's what's happening each and every day. Every day when we engage in avodah, what we're doing is we're taking little nitzotzos. This is the idea of being mala nitzotzos, of elevating sparks. Elevating sparks sounds very hippie, and maybe it has a bad name because it's used all over the place for, by disreputable teachers of this kind of stuff, perhaps, but maybe not. I don't know. But this is the idea of being mala nitzotzos, that every single day, everything that we do is potentially going to take little sparks and be mavar them. We're going to be mavar. We're going to clarify them by bringing them out of the klipa. How do we bring them out of the klipa? Through avoda, right? So when I take a drink and I make a bracha on the drink, and I appreciate on a very very let's say on a very very rudimentary level. Let's say I'm not such a my avodas ha'achila is not so good, so I take a drink, and I just all I do is follow halacha. I don't kavana and avodas ha'achila and spiritual things. Forget about it. I'm a Shulchan Aruch person, right? And all I do is follow Shulchan Aruch. So I'm about to take a drink. So what do? I make a bracha. Okay, so what did I just do by making that bracha? Hopefully at least I somewhat understood what I was saying, even if I don't really understand what I'm saying. What I did, at least on a certain level, is I was mala the nitzotzos that makes this drink what it is, right? What is the drink? The drink is shevirah, right? The cup that I'm holding, the ice in the cup, the drink that's in the cup with the ice, the fact that the drink is cold and the drink is refreshing. All of these are shevirah. All of these are defined parameters that could be revealing to me HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence within the world. But because it's klipa, because the kelim are shavor, I don't really see it. This is intentional because this is what allows me to engage in avoda, right? If the kli was whole, there would be no avoda to do. I would just see elokus. We talked about this last time when we talked about this was the reality pre-Eitz Hadas Tovara. Prior to Adam and Chava eating from the tree, actually, I'll read it to you. This is a very good line. Let's see if I can find it quickly. In the Leshem says here, find it. No, sorry, I can't find the exact language here. Okay, sorry. I thought I would be able to find it easily, but I'm not seeing it. Wait. No, okay, sorry. I thought I could find it quickly, but I can't. The Leshem talks about this at some length in several different places, and others talk about it. Rav Nassan of Breslov makes a big deal about it in connection to tefillin and the leather of tefillin, but many people talk about this in different places. But the idea being that prior to the Chet Eitz Hadas, Adam and Chava live in a reality in which there's perfect alignment between Oros and Kalim. Okay. Again, at least relative to us. So let's put it that way. But there's perfect alignment between Oros and Kalim. In other words, everything is a perfect kli that's fully and completely and totally megala, the Or Elokus, the Ratzon Hashem that's present within that reality. So in that situation, there isn't any real avoda to do, right? There's no tovara, there's no bechira really. There's a potential for bechira at least, but there's no real actualized, activated bechira because everything I see is just elokus. Right, so I look at this as a reality in which I take a drink of water and like I'm just drinking God, and that's what I experience and that's what I see and that's that's how I see everything. This is why Adam and Chava are naked, and they're not embarrassed by their nakedness, because reality is just Ratzon Hashem. So there's no possibility that there's anything wrong with that reality. There's anything to be ashamed of. There's any possibility of it going wrong. There's any possibility that I might make the wrong decisions that are connected the Ratzon Hashem, because all I see is the Ratzon Hashem. So, but in our reality, where the cup and the ice and the drink and the refreshingness of the drink and the coldness of the drink and the flavor of that, all whatever it is, all of that is not fully and completely revealing to me the Or Elokus, right? Instead, it reveals to me drink, refreshing. I'm thirsty. Put this down my throat and I won't be thirsty anymore. I'm hot. Drink the cold drink and now I will be refreshed. It's delicious, right? Whatever it's revealing to me, it's revealing to me a world of period of separation from the all-encompassing yichud of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? Because it's not a Kadosh Baruch Hu in charge, it's nature in charge. If I'm thirsty, drink the water. The only thing to do is when I'm thirsty is drink the water, right? As opposed to different from Rav Chanina ben Dosa. We've talked about this before. Different from Rav Chanina ben Dosa, who sees the world through these lenses and says, oil burns, vinegar burns. Who cares? Makes no difference. The same one who says oil burns can say vinegar burns, and the same one who says the vinegar doesn't burn can say the oil doesn't burn. So just light the vinegar for your Shabbos candles, and it burns because there's no limited materiality. There's no klipa anymore, right? You're seeing past all the klipa. But for most of us, we see klipa. And therefore, there's avoda to do, right? There's a bracha to make here, because why? Number one, I'm thirsty. So my animal instincts are kicking in. My nefesh bahamis is kicking in when I'm thirsty. So what do I want to do? I just want to guzzle the drink down. I pour the drink. It looks cold in the glass. It's frosting the outside of the glass, and my throat is parched. And all I want to do is guzzle down the drink, right? So that's one level of klipa. Now I stop and I make a bracha. So what did I just do? I was mala the Nitzotzos within this experience that was creating this experience and saying that this experience is a creation of the Ratzon Hashem, and I'm acknowledging it by making a bracha, because that's what the Ratzon Hashem is in this situation, right? It's not this situation of I'm thirsty, here's a cold to drink, is not a creation of nature. It's not a creation of not Ratzon Hashem. It's a creation of Ratzon Hashem. The only way to make it better is to stick with the Ratzon Hashem. The only way to live within this reality is to stick with the Ratzon Hashem. The Ratzon Hashem is take a drink. Make a bracha and then take the drink, right? And we could take it further. That's being mala one level of nitzos. And I can be mala more levels of nitzos. I can make that bracha not just a mumble. I can make that bracha bekavana. And I can actually appreciate what's going on when I'm about to take the drink. And the bracha helps do that for me because I'm doing it bekavana. I can do it even more, because as I take the drink, I could have further kavanas and further avoda ba'achila about what it is that I'm experiencing, and I'm drinking water, and water is a bechina of chachma, and water is a thing that binds things together, and I'm being bound together with the drink to the Ratzon Hashem that's present within the drink. There's all sorts of wonderful like kavanas you can sit and do while you're doing it. Each deeper level of kavana is being mala, a deeper level of nitzos that's contained within this experience. And when I drink the drink today, it's different from me drinking the drink tomorrow, because tomorrow the drink is different and I'm different. I'm not the same person tomorrow as I am today. I'm not the same person today I was yesterday. And so as a result of that, every single day, every single experience, I have opportunities to be mavarer and mala Nitzotzos and shevirah kelim. By doing what? By recognizing that there's elokus here. The klipa is not fooling me. I'm not enticed by the klipas noga and that pulls me down into tuma. I see the klipas noga and I bring the klipas noga up to kedusha by seeing the elokus that's present within it. Okay. The gamar tikkunam le'eskates, and the completion of all of this tikkun, the completion of the seeing and the recognizing and the appreciation of elokus within all of the klipa, within all of the shevirah kelim, that will happen at the time that will come in the future. When all of the klipa is fixed, when all of the klipa is elevated and reordered and refined, lichanes lekadusha, to be brought back into a place of kedusha. We'll see this later in I think it's the next chapter or the one after that, but it's worth just speaking out now for a minute or two, that if shevira is a consequence, we said last time or two times ago, is a consequence of the idea of ani emloch, the idea that each of the kalim says, I am everything and I don't need anybody else, and I'm going to hold all of the R, and I'm going to exist entirely on my own, and I can do the job all by myself. And that produces shevira, because what does it produce? It produces a separation from the yichud of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So by definition, the kalim are broken inherently. Tikkun is a reorientation or a reconstruction of the kalim in a way that involves mutual interdependence, right? We spoke this out. That's what tikkun is. Tikkun is a recognition that everything depends on everything else. Everything is interrelated with everything else. And chesed needs gevura. Absolute and total chesed is not the be-all and end-all of anything. Actually, it's destructive, and chesed needs to be balanced with gevura, and gevura needs to be balanced with chesed, and gevura and chesed together need to be synthesized through tiferes, but those are only potentiality. They're not actualized, and they have to be actualized through netzach. But netzach has to be balanced with hod, and netzach and hod together have to be grounded with yesod, and yesod is still just the expression of a balanced intentionality, but has to now take form outside of itself in a self-effacing, self-transcending way. That's malchus. Everything depends on everything else. Tikkun is the realization, or tikkun is the reconstruction of all of these elements, of all of these, of all the spheres, and all the kalim, really, in a way such that they all end up dependent on each other and mutually interrelated with each other. We spoke a while ago about the concept of igulim and yosher. I don't know if we spoke about igulim and yosher, that there are two ways. The Arizal says there are two ways that the or of the kav expresses itself. All or expresses itself in these ways, but the or of the kav, which creates reality, expresses itself in two ways. One was 10 spheros of or igulim, of which the Arizal depicts for us, although again it's just a metaphor, but he depicts for us as concentric circles or concentric spheres of or. So there's keser, and then within keser there's chachma, and within chachma there's a sphere of bina, and within bina there's chesed, and on all the way in. And then there's also a different expression of or called yosher, which the Arizal says is bitzuras komas adam. It's the spheros set up like a human form, right? Standing upright, where you have keser, chachma, and bina in the head, and das sort of at the amygdala at the bottom of the head, transferring the mochin down into the body, and you have chesed and gevura in the arms, and tiferes in the heart, and on down the body. The difference between igulim and yosher is exactly this difference between shevira and tikkun. Or that's expressed purely through igulim. Igulim have no connection to each other. There's keser, and below keser is chachma, and below that is bina. But each one is an all-encompassing reality that is in and of itself self-contained. So keser has no use for bina, because keser is all-encompassing. It's a sphere. There's no entry point. There's no, right? And the same is true for all of them. When we talk about the idea that each of the spheres are sort of acting on their own, so to speak, or trying to hold everything on their own or do everything on their own, this is the idea of or being expressed initially through igulim, and only through igulim. Or expressed through igulim creates shevira, is shevira in a certain sense. It is a state of shevira because it's a state in which spheros exist independent of each other. Kalim exist independent of each other, and that means that each one says, I'm it, or can see itself as it, and reveals itself as I am it, I am everything. On my level, I am it. The entirety of reality within keser is just keser, because it's an eagle of keser. It defines the reality within that. That reality within keser is not defined by keser balanced with chachma, balanced with bina, etc., etc. It's just keser, right? And so to chachma, the reality within chachma is just chachma. right? It's trying to create a reality that's entirely dependent only on it. It's entirely defined by it. But what happens when I take one slice of the Ratzon Hashem, which is a perfectly balanced or Ein Sof, all-encompassing, or Pashut that contains everything within it, I take one bit of it and I use that to create an entire reality. It can't sustain itself. It's not balanced. It's not sustainable, so it breaks. Tikkun is the yosher, which emerges after the igulim, the Arizal says. After you have the igulim, then you have the yosher. Then the yosher emerges. What does that really mean? What that really means is that igulim, by definition, right, we're thinking of this as, well, they're kalim, and then you take a hammer and you smash the kalim, and then they fall to the ground, and then you fix them. But that's not really what we're talking about. The very existence, the very nature of igulim is that they are existing within a state of shevira. They exist within a state of tohu vavohu, of chaos, because everyone is vying and fighting with each other and no one's cooperating with anybody else. So that reality of igulim is itself a shevira, is itself a reality of shevira. The igulim produce the yosher, because once you have the igulim and they all fall apart, so to speak, or they have fallen apart, their very existence is them falling apart. Then a yosher emerges. The yosher is spheros in balance with each other, spheros organized in connection to each other, because keser is not keser on its own. Keser is part of the mochin, which is related also to chachma and related to bina, and none of them exist on their own. Keser is only expressed through Chachma and Bina. Chachma is only Chachma because it's balanced by Bina, so it means something. Keser is only a Ratzon because it's given a definition and expression through Chachma and Bina, and on through all the spheros. That you have triads of spheros. You have the right side and the left side and the middle that balances between the two of them. You have the top three, the middle three, the bottom three. You have groups of spheros now in the yosher, instead of one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other, in a separate kind of way. Okay? So when we talk about shevira and tikkun, and when we talk about the tikkun ha'atum, when we talk about the idea that eventually gamar tikkunam yeh le'es kates k'shechol aklipa tasar le'skanin lechanes le'kedusha. What does it mean that everything is going to get fixed? What does it mean that the shevira is going to be fixed? It means that the separateness of reality, the perceived separateness of reality, which is a consequence of the shevira, which is a consequence of everything acting for itself entirely independently, that is going to be fixed. How? By drawing everything back together in a sense of yichud, in a sense of interdependence, in a sense of an appreciation for how everything relates to everything else. Right? So, okay. So that's the basic idea. That's the basic idea of the Rapach Nitzotzos. The Rapach Nitzotzos, again, just to also say, I guess, what should be obvious. But when we talk about things like, well, no, not all the time, but at least when it comes to the Rapach Nitzotzos, we're not really, Lav Dafka, we're talking about 288 Nitzotzos. There aren't 288 Nitzotzos. There are 288 Nitzotzos, and every Nitzotzos contains 288 Nitzotzos, and every Nitzotzos of the 208 Nitzotzos within each of the 208 Nitzotzos contains 208 Nitzotzos, right? This is an endless reality, okay? It's a symbolic number that's derived in part from the pasuk at the beginning of Bereshis, which describes the state of shevira, which is the Aretz is the landscape, right? The landscape of reality. Aretz haisa sohu v'vahu v'choshech al pnei tohom v'ruach Elokim. That's the or merachefes al pnei hamayim, is hovering over this reality, this chaotic reality. Mirachefes is rapach, the word, right? Mirachefes, right? If you spell out mirachefes, it's mem resh ches pei saf. That's resh pei ches or resh ches pei in the middle of the word mace. Mace is the same as shevira, right? That there's this death taking place, but contained within this death, contained within this diminution of kalim, right? That's what death is. Death is taking a kalim that exists, and then the keli and the or within that keli separate from each other. So the kli falls, and the or goes up. That's what death is, right? Right now we're an or within a kli, and when we die, the or within us returns to its source. And reunites with its source instead of being differentiated from its source down here within a particular kli, and the kli, the body, right, descends into a place that's even more low than it currently is, because now it decays and falls apart and doesn't have chiyus anymore, right? So the rapach is contained within the misa of the shevira sakelim. So that's part of where the rapach comes from. The rapach also comes from it's a complicated parak in Oshos Chaim and in Eitz Chaim, and it's in all pretty much all the Kisvei Arizal that deal with the Seder Shtalshlus is a complex parak about how different permutations of the Shemos of Hashem related to the four olamos that the Nitzotzos fall through until they get to the Madar Klipos, so all the way at the bottom. That leaves us with the number 288. But we haven't learned about Shemos Miluim really, and it's not kedai to get into now. So there's a reason why we say 288, but 288 isn't literally 288. 288 is really infinite, right? Infinite permutations of reality. Every permutation of reality contains a nitzos. And the goal is to be malo those nitzos, to be mavar them through our avodah. Okay, so so all of the shevira, this whole thing, this whole process was of course intentional. It was bekavana. Why? The whole point of it is so that there should be schar va'onesh. Because you can't give schar va'onesh. This goes back to what we talked about all the way at the very, very beginning. There can't be any schar va'onesh unless there's bechira. There's an experience at least of bechira, of being able to choose between good and bad. For in order to be able to choose between good and bad, there has to be a reality that I experience as consonant and aligned with the Ratzon Hashem, and a reality that I experience as being out of line from my perspective with the Ratzon Hashem. The Avshar Lios Bechira, and there can't possibly be such a choice. You can't choose between good and bad or have the perception of the existence of right and wrong, ki im al yidei shevira, except through the reality of shevira, because shevira in and of itself is the consequence of the existence of a state of pirud that is different and differentiated from the yichud of Elokus, of the Ein Sof. Sha'al yidei zeh, because through this shevira nishava haklipa sheba lefatos es adam, because through the shevira, as we discussed last time, through the shevira we end up having the reality of klipa, the reality of material things, of kelim, that are enlivened with nitzotzos, but take the form of klipa as opposed to properly aligned and revealing kelim. Instead, they are klipa. They are things that hide HaKadosh Baruch Hu from us, hide HaKadosh Baruch Hu's ratzon and presence from us, instead of revealing it fully. Shebo lefatos es adam, which come to entice us, to seduce us, to confuse us, and make us think that there is something other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? So, when I'm hungry, klipa means that the ham sandwich looks like it can satisfy my hunger, right? It can't satisfy my hunger because my hunger is a consequence of the Ratzon Hashem. And the ham sandwich is a consequence of the Ratzon Hashem. And the commandment that says don't eat the ham sandwich is a consequence of the Ratzon Hashem. So how can it possibly be that the ham sandwich will actually provide me with what I'm looking for, which is to satisfy my hunger? If all of these things are all Ratzon Hashem, it can't be that it works together. This is a major inherent contradiction for the ham sandwich to produce a positive reality. And yes, if I eat that ham sandwich, I will feel full. And that in and of itself is a klipa, which convinces me that, oh, you can eat ham sandwiches and they'll satisfy your hunger. So next time you're hungry, eat the ham sandwich. But the truth is, of course, that it can't possibly be doing for me what it is that I'm really seeking. What it does is it's sating me in a temporary sense. It's sating me in a material sense. But it's leaving me lacking. It's leaving me sunk deeper into a disalignment or a distance, so to speak, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And ultimately, that will leave me wanting and lacking. And that's what klipa is. So the fact of the shevira is what produces an experience of klipa. The experience of klipa is what produces an experience or a perception of right and wrong. Of I can do things that are aligned with the Ratzon Hashem. I can do things that are misaligned with the Ratzon Hashem, and I have reason to choose one or the other. I can gain something by stealing. I'll steal some money and then I'll have more money in my pocket. No, you won't. It's not going to put you ahead at all. It can't possibly put you ahead because all the money you have and all the resources you have and all the things you can get with your money and all the things you're supposed to have that will make you happy, these are all functions of the Ratzon Hashem. And also the Ratzon Hashem says don't steal. So it can't work. But my human experience in the world of Klipa says that it can work. I see people do it all the time and it seems to work, right? You cheat, and some people get caught, and some people don't get caught. But lots of those who get caught don't get caught for a long time, and they live at large until they get caught. And many of those who are doing it don't get caught at all, and they're also doing great, right? My perception, right? So the klipa is what produces this materialistic perception that this is the reality. Oh, you're right. You cheat on your taxes, and now you get ahead, and now you have a nicer house, and you have a better car, and you have whatever you have. And you support lots of yeshivas, and you do all sorts of right, and you have great stuff as a result. From a spiritual sense, are you ahead? Are you satisfied? Is anything good happening? No, terrible things are happening spiritually, but you don't see that because we live in a klipa world, produced by shevira, produced by shvira's kelim and nitzotzos, as opposed to proper kelim aligned with and fully revealing to us the or elokus, like Adam and Chava prior to the Eitz Hadas, where you would look at the ill-gotten gains from a tax fraud and appreciate immediately that there's nothing can come of this. There's nothing good here, but we don't see that because we live in klipa. Why do we live in klipa? Because now I have a choice. I couldn't have that choice if I didn't live in materiality. If I didn't think ham sandwiches can satisfy my hunger and cheating on my taxes can put more money in my pocket and on, whatever, pick your favorite avera, right? Or not of it, right? Or taking a drink without a bracha will make me satisfied and stay and feel cool, cooled off from the heat a second earlier. Right? It's not true, but my experience of the material world as a material being says it's true. And that's all a consequence of shevira and klipa. So it's an avoda, it's work to then to sort of say no, none of that's real. None of that's real. Actually, I'm going to say a bracha. And why am I going to say a bracha? Number one, because this is elokus and I want to acknowledge it. And the way to acknowledge it is to say the bracha. Why is that the way to acknowledge it? Because that's what Chazal said. They said, say the bracha. And I'm supposed to, Hashem said, follow Chazal. Right? So I could mentally sort of, I can meditate on the drink instead of saying a bracha. But that's not really being mala klipas, right? Because what am I doing? Instead of saying a bracha, I'm meditating, this is God in the drink, and it's a liquid, and liquid is chachma. I can do all sorts of kavanas with the drink without saying a bracha, and then I take a drink of the drink. So what did I do? At the end of the day, until I made that bracha, it's not klipas noga yet, right? This is klipas noga that I've just taken down instead of elevating up. Because how can I be mala klipa, how can I be mala nitzotzos, in a way that is different from the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to be mala the nitzotzos? It makes no sense. The whole point is to acknowledge HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So if I'm really acknowledging HaKadosh Baruch Hu, instead of acknowledging me, I have to do it the way you said to do it, not the way I want to do it. Okay? Fine. Okay. So, but again, so the point of all of this, the point of the shevira now is intentional in order to give us choice, in order to give us bechira. Therefore, the shevira itself is referred to as aveda midas. It's referred to as an intentionally misplaced thing. Perish. Shahakelim nivru bekavana miyuchedes almanas lishaver. The kelim were created in order to be broken. Right? Why didn't HaKadosh Baruch Hu create a yosher before igulim? Why didn't he just? Why are you creating this reality of kelim that are each saying ani emloch and I'm in charge and I'm going to exist all on my own? The whole point of it is midas. It's midas. It's an aveda midas. It's something that's being lost intentionally. I'm intentionally losing something. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is intentionally losing something, so to speak. Why? Specifically, so that the nitzotzos should fall down into the klipa. Va'anu b'nei adam nasaf b'zeh, and we human beings, we should engage with all of our stuff, kol yameinu, our whole lives, v'ha'alas elo nitzotzin ha'avudim v'ashivra kelim lachzirim l'sharash. We're spending so that we can sit and spend our entire lives being mal of these nitzotzos and recognizing the presence of Elokus within the shivra kelim, within the klipa. And then when we do that, then we can circle back all the way back to the beginning. That's going to fulfill the original tachlis of the bria, that Hashem is going to do good by us, is going to offer goodness to us. Why? What's the best good we can get? Is to experience, recognize, and see every aspect of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not as a freebie, but as a consequence of our own avodah. So that entire process of shevira is midas, it's intentional. Achen, however, however, when a person is chota, when a person messes up with these nitzotzos, when I drink the drink without making a bracha, when I eat the ham sandwich because I'm hungry, when I cheat on my taxes because I don't have money in my bank account, Shalo die, shalo. So that's a very terrible thing, right? Shalo die, shalo hela osam. It's not enough that I wasn't malad that nitzotz. I didn't look at that, potential gain from my tax cheating and say, no, the Ratzon Hashem is that I shouldn't cheat, and the money is just a consequence of the Ratzon Hashem, and my current financial situation is just a consequence of the Ratzon Hashem, and I'm seeing the Ratzon Hashem in all of the klipa. So I could have done that, but I didn't. Not only did I not do that, but what did I do? Yosher la'omek makom haklipos. What did I do? I took the nitzotzos of Elokus that's present here, and I sunk it even deeper into klipa. What happens? What am I doing when I take a bite of the ham sandwich because I'm hungry? What I'm doing is I'm sinking even more deeply, and I'm sinking that ham sandwich, so to speak, even more deeply into klipa. I'm saying even more so that I'm controlled by material cause and effect. I'm controlled by teva. I'm not controlled by the Ratzon Hashem. The world isn't controlled by the Ratzon Hashem. I am acting on, and through my actions, I'm actualizing and making real and manifesting the incorrect, but from my perspective, the truth that there's not just one Borei Olam and everything is miyuchad within the Makom Shel Olam. Instead, there's God, maybe, and there's the world, and the world operates the way the world operates. And when a human being is hungry, they take a bite of food, and then they're satisfied. I'm sinking more deeply into that sense of the material world is it, and the way the material world functions is the way the world functions. So not only have I not been mala that nitzotzos by saying it's elokus, and therefore I'm not going to eat the sandwich. I am okay, even if I'm hungry, I'll be okay, and I'll wait for the kosher sandwich. But more than that, I'm allowing my perspective, my entire universe, and the things around me that I'm operating on to now be more deeply controlled by this sense of klipa, by the sense of this is not all elokus here, this is not all Ratzon Hashem here. And sometimes even what happens is that I'm drawing even more nitzotzos down into the klipa. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't want that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu only wanted certain klipa, certain nitzotzos, certain aspects of the Ratzon Hashem to be in the klipa, right? And to present the right balance of tov v'ra so that I can have the chira. But what happens when I choose wrong? Sometimes I'm taking the ra that's already present here, and I'm making it even harder to see as ra. Other times I take tov, and I turn the tov into ra, and that's even worse because now I'm upsetting the balance even more deeply, and it becomes even harder to start to claw our way back. And therefore, nikru hanitzotzin shenaflu al yedei chataenu b'shem aveda shalom midat. And therefore, we refer to the nitzotzos that fall into klipa as a result of our mistakes, as a result of our missteps, as a result of our not seeing the reality of the elokus that's present within the shivra kelim, within material reality. We call that aveda shalom midat. Those are things that are being lost, not intentionally, right? That wasn't part of the plan. The plan was, I'm going to hand you a reality that's equally balanced between good and bad, and you're going to choose good. hopefully, and then everything will go well because the tikkun will happen step by step, day by day, person by person, experience by experience, and over time the tikkun will happen, and now everything will be integrated because you saw how everything is connected to everything else. But now, instead of doing that, of taking the intentional mess up, the intentional chaos of the world and being mala it, now you've created more chaos within the world. And you've now drawn the world away from where it's supposed to. Not only are you not pushing it closer to the gula, but you're pulling it backwards. Right? So that's aveda shalomidas. Okay. So I think that's a good place to stop. We did a little bit shorter this time, but the next section actually will go through each of the seven kalim, the seven lower spheres, and sort of flesh out a little bit at least what is the avoda of being mala nitzotzos with respect to each of those. So we'll talk about chesed, and we'll talk about kavur and tiferes, netzach, hod, yesod, malchus, and what is the midah that's at play there, right? Where is that showing up in our lives? And how are we mala nitzotzos in that thing, and how through chesed, right? How can we be mala the nitzotzos of chesed that we encounter? How can we be mala the nitzotzos of kavur that we encounter, and so on, or God forbid, alternatively, how we can take chesed and sink it deeper into klipa if we approach things in the wrong ways. Okay, fine. That's a good stopping point. And Be'ezus Hashem, we'll continue next week. We'll finish this Hakdama next week, and we'll be off for a week for Purim. And we'll continue after that.
I'm personally going to